Hi, I'm Michelle Smart. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm trying to keep you updated on the latest on the employee retention tax credit. Well, as you know, the big beautiful bill has passed. And what does that mean for ERC? What that means is that only third and fourth quarter of 2021 will be affected. For those quarters, you have to have applied by January 31st, 2024. I think many people knew this was coming, and hopefully if you have an application in for third or fourth quarter 2021, you applied prior to January 31st, 2024. And if you are in an area of time that is close to that, hold on to your return receipt. And I hope you sent everything return receipt. Everyone else should be okay. So now on to what the question of the day is how much interest should I be getting on my ERC? How is it calculated? And what do I do if I think that the IRS made an error? So let's take a look at when the due date started, what the interest rates are, what you should be getting paid, and what to do if you didn't get that amount. So the IRS has some discretion as to when the start date of the interest accrual begins. What they're saying here is usually from the tax return filing date. So let's say, for example, fourth quarter 2024, that tax return is due by January 31st, 2021. Your payment was due January 15th, 2021. So that overpayment, you could say it's January 15th. The tax return wasn't filed till January 31st, somewhere in that area. I think we're close enough. We're happy with that. Late filed tax return. Now, this is going to affect a lot of people because what I found during the pandemic is a lot of people who filed their 941, it just went into the IRS Bermuda Triangle and it just did not get logged. So I don't know what to do about that exactly because I believe people sent it and they probably did not keep a return receipt. And I know that the IRS many times notified my clients they could not process the 941X because they did not have the 941. So if you did not get it very much on your interest or as much as you expected, that could be why. But the date the IRS received your return, it could have been logged in and then didn't show up on the transcripts till much later. This happened quite a bit that I know of. So there's some discretion as to when the tax return was filed, when the taxes were paid, but also when the IRS was notified that there was an overpayment. And that would be upon the date of the filing of the 941X. There seems to be some discretion on the IRS side onto what exactly is the date that the IRS starts accruing interest that is due to you. So it could be from the date of the overpayment, which, like I said, in this case, fourth quarter 2020 would be January 15th, 2021, or it could be the date that that was due, January 31st, 2024. And if the IRS did not have that return or didn't log it, and you had to resend it, it could have delayed it a whole nother year to the accrual of the interest. This is something I would debate with the IRS if they lost your 941 and didn't start accruing your interest. But if you got a check that's in your like, this interest isn't what it should be, that might be why. So let's just take a look about how this should be calculated. So this is how we should be calculating the interest that should be accrued on our ERC refund. So I have an example here for fourth quarter 2020. Let's say your refund or overpayment was $100,000. The due date of the payroll taxes was January 15th, 2021. You paid the payroll taxes January 15th, 2021, and you filed the 941X notifying the IRS that there was an overpayment of payroll taxes on April 15th, 2021. The IRS seems to have some discretion on which date they want to choose to start accruing the payroll tax overpayment, the interest on the payroll tax overpayment. Could be January 15th, 2021 or April 15th, 2021. Where we're running into problems is that during the pandemic, I had a lot of people who paper filed 941s and the IRS did not get them. And they sent multiple notices, or rather, I would say they ended up in the IRS Bermuda Triangle. They were, in fact, filed on time there were so many clients who told me this that I have to believe they got lost over a very late process on the side of the IRS. So even if they didn't show up in the transcripts, it could be that the IRS shows a date it was received that was earlier than when it's showing on the transcripts. So if you are one of these people whose 941 was not showing up with the IRS and they sent you a letter saying, send me a 941, we don't have it, so we can't process your 941X, I would dispute that if they didn't give you enough interest on your return. I would tell them, I filed it on time. So if we start accruing the interest on the $100,000, we are going to look up the date when it should have started. In this case, just to be really conservative, we're going to start with April 15th, 2021, when the IRS was notified of the overpayment of the payroll taxes. Now, there's varying rates of interest for payroll taxes. It's the short-term interest rate that's on the IRS website. So you can go to irs.gov and look that up. Approximately, we're ballparking it here. It's about 6% per year. In 2025, it's now 7% per year. So in this case, there were 4 years between the time that the IRS was notified of the overpayment and that the payment was received. So $100,000 times 6% times 4 years is 24,000. Or another way to look at it is that 4 years times 6% is 24% should be the amount of interest that was received from the IRS. Now, the problem with a lot of these, as I said, is the dates that the IRS recognizes that there was an overpayment. This is something you could dispute. So what happens if we want to dispute it? We have to show the IRS our own calculations. And so we would need to do a spreadsheet, something like that, looking at the actual short-term rates per quarter and showing what dates you sent it in. The IRS may not have this on their transcripts with the correct date, but if they go back to the original 941, if you paper filed, they should have the dates there when they received it. And I would state that when I dispute it, that I sent this in on time. The IRS didn't show it in their transcripts, but it was sent on such and such a date or around such and such a date. And so I'm going to calculate the interest that's due to me based on that date. Now, how do we calculate? What do we do to notify the IRS? Okay, so we go to irs.gov and we plug in, well, let's just do this so you can all see that. irs.gov, and we go in here and we're going to search for form 843. That is the form that you use to dispute when the IRS has not paid you the amount of interest that is due to you. Don't be alarmed when you see this form, because the form itself is for multiple purposes. So there are going to be things that don't apply in this case. They're under the same spot. So this form is claim for a refund or request for abatement, form 843. You can see when I searched for this form, instructions came up also on how to file it. They're not going to all apply to this situation. The important thing is that you need to send a spreadsheet of how you calculated it. Go by the dates that you got, that you filed your returns, and then look at what the amount was that they paid you on either the letter or the face of the check. It should say how much interest, how much of your check was interest and how much was the refund. And then that's got to be included when you dispute it. You need to include your own calculations on how much you should have gotten in interest. So take a look and see what you got. And if you were shorted, then file this form. Maybe I'll do, if you request, a more detailed version of how to fill out form 843. Again, if you have any questions, please write below. I'm Michelle Smart, I'm an enrolled agent. Please like or subscribe so other people who are looking for this content can find my channel. Thanks for watching.